like to welcome the audience to the August 20th Parish Planning and Zoning meeting. We'll call this meeting to order. Would you all please stand while Coach Williams says the invocation and pledge of allegiance?
Dear Lord, again, we thank you for allowing us another blessed day. Thank you for the opportunity that you've given us to serve. And we pray, Lord, for the sick among us, and those all over is suffering from either sickness or lost their loved ones. We ask that mercy upon them as well. Thank you, Lord, that you can come into this meeting your spirit tonight. Also pray for those who come seeking our help, and let the Holy Spirit guide us and lead us that which is right in your sight. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Coach. Ms. Christie, would you call roll, please?
Chair Art Little.
Here.
Vice Chair Randy Armator.
Here.
Ms. Latricia Cobb. Ms. Julia Dickerson. Here. Ms. Sharon Galicia. Here. Ms. Janelle Hyatt. Mr. Kyle Link.
Here.
Mr. Jake Porsche.
Here.
Mr. Gary Navarre.
Here.
Mr. Kirk Smith.
Here.
And Mr. LaSalle Williams.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. This is an 11-member board. We will take the majority of those members present to grant or deny any requests heard tonight. The chairman will refrain from voting unless that vote might affect the outcome. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the request from the agenda. The planning staff will give a presentation and report their recommendations. If the applicant would like to add to the staff's presentation, or if someone from the audience has comments, please come to the microphone and state your name, address, and the nature of your request. All persons wishing to speak other than the applicant needs to fill out a blue request to appear form located in the back of this room. The form must be given to a staff member prior to the reading of the agenda item. As required by this board's bylaws, in all cases, the proponents will be limited to 10 minutes. Opponents will be granted 10 minutes as well, with each speaker allowed no more than 3 minutes. I recommend that a spokesperson be selected if there's a large group wanting to speak on the same agenda item. If 4 or more speakers' request forms are submitted, the time allotted for the individual speakers will be limited based upon the number of forms submitted. The chair has the right to limit speakers who present redundant information or personal attacks. In unique situations, the chair may extend, or the board may vote to extend, the time allotted for speakers. After discussion, the board will vote on each request. I will announce the decision of the board after the vote. The exceptions and variance requests are final tonight. The rezoning case will go before the police jury for final action on August the 22nd, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. This meeting is being filmed by Calcasieu Parish Government Channel and can be viewed on Wednesday and Thursday following the meeting. For additional run dates, check the website at www.cppj.net, at Channel 5 in Lake Charles, Sulphur, Moss Bluff, Westlake, Vinton, DeQuincy, and Gillis, and Channel 99 in Corliss and Grand Lake. Before we go any further, I'd like for everyone, please silence their electronic devices. I'd like to announce that item number 9 on our agenda, RZ 0719-0139, a request by Billy J. Rutherford to rezone from single-family residential to manufactured home park to allow a manufactured home, 80 spaces, at 5905 Carbine Road in Ward 3 has been withdrawn. I want to read that out now in case someone's here for that particular one. If you're more than welcome to stay, but if you needed to leave for some reason, that item has been withdrawn. Agenda item number 5, take appropriate action to approve the minutes of the July 16th, 2019 Planning and Zoning meeting. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Have a motion by Ms. Cobb, second by Ms. Hyatt. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Minutes carry. Item number 6, take appropriate action on VAR 06190096, a request by Leo Bourgeois the fourth for a variance to decrease the side and rear yard setbacks for a pond. Required 50 feet, requesting 20 feet at 1053 Zoe's Court in Ward 3. We do have a couple of blue cards that we'll run across, one in favor and one against. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Navarre, seconded by Ms. Galicia. Ms. Tom?
This property is in the South Lake Charles area and encompasses a little over an acre of agricultural zone land. The applicant intends to excavate a pond on the property and utilize the material to elevate his house pad. Because there is no evidence of a hardship, the staff recommends the request be denied. Should the board grant the request, the staff recommends the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that the development adhere to stormwater best management practices, and that obstructing the flow of surface water is prohibited.
The applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations?
Chairman, members of the staff, my name is Tom Gale. My address is 713 Kirby Street in Lake Charles. I'm here on behalf of the subdivision developer and then also the lot owner. This is the exact same thing we considered last month. And in fact, you've already approved 2 in this area on the exact same request. And Mr. Navarre, you were the one we talked about whether or not this was the the Paul Harvey moment. Now you know the rest of the story. Subdivision got approved. Mr. Bourgeois actually bought his lot back in 18. Had he pulled his permit before December 31, he would have been fine, but with the new ordinance, and so now he's coming back under the new ordinance asking for the variance, just like the other property owners did. So it's the exact same request I've already approved twice. So I'd be glad to answer any questions.
When did he buy the property?
August of 18?
August of 18?
Yes, sir.
And they changed it December of 8, or January 1 of 18, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the board members? Thank you, Mr. Gale. We have one blue card for general comments. Mr. Greg Fontenot. Would state your name and address, please, sir.
I'm Greg Fontenot, 7954 Lake Street. I'm not for or against this pond. I live adjacent to there. One of the lots is right next to my property. They haven't come yet they may not, I don't even know who owns it, if they may not, there's not gonna be a pond on every lot. But if there is, my concern is, from what I see, there's no slope requirements, and we're gonna have a pond every 20 feet. I'm scared we're gonna, with the rain, like a rain we got today, the whole pasture was flooded. That's gonna migrate together. I don't know if they're gonna, if this border's gonna be stagnant or what it's gonna be, what the requirements are. But I want y'all to, if you would, consider, have some type of slope requirements, a depth requirement, because as small as those lots are, to dig enough dirt for their house pad, I mean, you just take that house pad and invert it, it's gonna be substantial. It's gonna be deep. And there are kids in the area and everything else, so it's something to guard about. But I would like y'all to consider the 20-foot, maybe 50%, 60% of the ordinance, like 25 feet, 30 feet, just to give a little extra buffer. Since there is those sides gonna cave in or whatever, who's gonna control that, who's gonna be responsible to control that 20-foot barrier between there? So that's all I wanted to say.
You have a question, Mr.
I think it's gonna be actually 40 foot. If it's 20 foot here, but from this point, the property line is 20 foot.
Yes.
So it's actually 40 foot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know.
There's 40 foot between the pond. There
Right.
would be 40 feet
Right.
between the pond. But I don't have a pond. I've been living there for over 40 years. I don't have a pond. So I'm gonna have a pond 20 feet from my property line. And doesn't have any, there's no slope requirements. That's gonna slough off. We live in Louisiana. And who's gonna maintain that 20-foot barrier? This guy's gonna keep it backfilled or whatever. I just want y'all to consider that. For the existing people there, there's gonna be 40 foot, but that's gonna encroach also, every way.
On the application, the side slope, it states it's gonna be 2-to-1. This is from the applicant. Is that adhering to the parish ordinance, or did he arbitrarily pick that slope?
I don't think there's a parish ordinance that
Okay.
says what the slope on the
So
inside.
there's no part of the permitting inspection process for a private use pond, it's just, as long as the offset?
That's what I
Okay.
understood.
And I think that's why the 50-foot setback was
Right, okay.
called.
He just picked that arbitrarily, like, I'm just, okay, 2-to-1, okay.
Well, at a 2-to-1 slope, it's gonna slough off. That's not very much of a city.
No, you may want to let Mr. Gale come up and respond. He may have a response, he may not, to what was said. I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Fondo. Gail, you have any comments in that respect?
I'll be glad to answer any questions. The developer, the property owners agreed to a 2-to-1 slope, and it makes perfect sense because it's a safety hazard for him and his own family. Nobody wants a sheer drop-off if for no other reason, kids, lawnmowers, bicycles, whatever. So erosion and good conservation practice, of course, dictates that you have a slope that you can maintain, but it's also a significant safety issue. And so the property owner, the homeowner is going to have a vested interest to make sure that he and his family and the neighbor's kids, everybody who's around there, has a safe environment to live and work on, and that is not going to be a sheer drop-off to maximize the whole. And so that's why we've got an agreement on the application for a 2-to-1 slope. Yes, ma'am.
Two lots in that neighborhood?
Correct.
Wow.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Yes, sir, Mr. Jake.
Just got a question for staff or Mr. Gabb. I mean, I know we make decisions, on each individual case, but where does that put the parish, or does it place the parish in any sort of difficult situation with 2 we've told yes, and then the third just no? Same situation, the same neighborhood. I mean, because the recommendation is for it to be denied, with the understanding that we've told 2 people in the same. I'm curious on the recommendation where.
I don't know, I might let your counsel handle that.
Well,
Puts me in a little better picture.
I don't. Yeah. Go
Well, and Wes can defend his recommendation, but you do view each property, it stands as its own.
Sure.
As you look at the map, you can look at the adjoining properties, and maybe that one, you may be right. But what about the lots on the north side of the street?
Sure.
They have different considerations. So each property does stand on its own. So I don't think there's an issue yet. But certainly, if you keep saying yes to these applications, I think Wes may have eventually view that with an understanding as he reviews applications for other properties.
Sure.
If you've approved it for 2 adjoining ones, well, sure, then maybe that does come into play.
Right.
But each one does stand on its own.
Okay.
Mr. Gabb, he took the words right out of my mouth. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at these individually, even though I'm looking across the board and seeing what's a consistent pattern and so forth. But I think you have to take these individually. I don't want to make the assumption that every property owner out here is going to have a pond either.
Correct.
I have no idea. We don't know what the construction of these homes are going to be. There was no there was no standard plan given to our office and saying, hey, here's the plan that we intend to build out here. We don't know.
Right.
And so each property owner can design their property as they wish.
Right.
So,
And if I may expand on that a little bit, for this piece of property, you didn't hear any opposition. So opposition comes into play as well.
Absolutely.
But those are the considerations you guys have to make, and or the decisions you have to make based upon those considerations.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Christie, can we have a roll call vote, please, ma'am?
Mr. Porsche?
Yes.
Ms. Dickerson? Yes. Mr. Armentor?
yes.
Mrs. Cobb? Yes. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Navarre?
Yes.
Ms. Galicia?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah.
Ms. Hyatt?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Motion carries. Agenda item number 7. Take appropriate action on VAR 07190097, a request by Joseph Martin to allow 2 lots with less than required lot square footage, required 43,560 square feet for each lot, requesting 20,020 square feet for each lot at 1086 East Tank Farm Road in Ward 3. And Mr. Gass, we have 7 blue cards that are requesting to speak on this. I just want to let you know that right now.
Seven in opposition.
Yes.
Typically, we limit the opposition to 10 minutes as a grand total. In this case, if you want to expand that a little bit and allow maybe 2 minutes per speaker, that would be my recommendation.
Sir.
Mr. Chairman, to clear something up, I talked with Mr. Morton, and on these letters from the people that are against it, they're all talking about him putting trailers out there.
Gary, before we go in and get into discussion, I'm going to ask for a motion.
Oh,
then we
okay.
go to discussion. I'm sorry, I didn't do that.
All
but
right,
I'm
no
gonna-
problem.
I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Navarre,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Porche. Ms. Tammy?
This property is located in South Lake Charles area and encompasses .92 acres. Currently on the property is an existing manufactured home and 2 storage buildings. The applicant is requesting to allow 2 lots with less than required lot square footage. If approved, the applicant intends to place a manufactured home on the vacant lot. Because the proposed development is consistent with the character of the area, the staff recommends that the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, that the development adhere to stormwater best management practices, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering. And we have received numerous opposition letters.
Thank you, Ms. Tammy. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations? Would, sir, please state your name and address for the records?
I'm Joseph Martin. My business address is 4033 Common Street. I don't know if all the residents were totally unaware, but I'm doing away with mobile homes completely. I'm building 2 brand new, my proposal is to build 2 brand new homes. No mobile homes at all. However, if I'm not allowed to build these homes, I'm forced to leave the mobile home there. Then it puts me in a situation where I'm going to have to rent it out to get what I've got back into the property. I'd rather avoid that because I'm not in the rental business. I've had a numerous amount of properties in the past, and I don't have time to collect rent. And also, the reason why I'm against renting is because I can't be against anyone who might want to rent the property. Well, you know, I mean, it could be, what you got to bear in mind is that it could be anybody. I mean, you know, and the thing about you don't know what kind of rent, right now it's a very nice neighborhood, I gotta agree. And if everyone here that's opposing to it, you guys realize that I've put in extensive work in beautifying the property. That's what I do. Everything's gotta be perfect whenever I touch it. I'm building other houses in the area, and you're welcome to take a look at how those properties look. But anyway, to make a long story short, I would be against putting an additional mobile home there also. If I, you know, being that you guys already have a home, I would be against it too, no questions asked. But I'm doing away with the mobile home. Matter of fact, the mobile home is sold pending on what happens here. And like I said, I've got the blueprints here for these homes. They're not gonna be extravagant homes because I don't wanna hurt the neighborhood, but they're 2,000 square foot homes. That's what I would like to do. I'd like to put everyone aware that I'm not wanting to put an additional mobile home there.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Anyone have, any of the staff board members have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Martin, the other lots in this area, are they 20,000 square foot lots or 45,000 square foot lots?
There are several lots in that neighborhood that's 20,000, well, somewhere in the 20s for sure. Matter of fact, that's one across the street from me. The tract is set up identical, but there's two houses on that piece of property, and that property is identical to mine.
Okay,
I'm just looking at the request as far as the lot size, and I'm thinking it's very reasonable. If I'm not mistaken, the minimal lot size for the parish is 7,500 square feet. Is that correct? I know, I'm asking the staff, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know in the city it's 6,000 square feet is the minimal, but
Dependent upon if you're in an urban or rural area, if you
Okay.
have water or sewer, so
if he
it
did
just,
if he did a community sewer system,
he would be required a half acre. This is, I mean, not a half acre, I'm sorry, 16,000 square feet.
16,000, okay.
If he doesn't have public water.
Okay, okay. So he's well above the ordinance minimum. Okay. And I mean, just in making that case, I know this is not a urban area, but I mean, if usually when I see a tract like this, they're divided up into 4 lots and putting 4 homes. So I just think 20,000 square feet for lot size is very, in my opinion, generous. I would agree. Mr. West?
Yeah, I was going to reiterate that there are several lots along this street that have been divided, and they're comparable sizes to what he's required. That's why I recommended it, simply because it was consistent with that.
Just my opinion, if I was a neighbor, he's getting rid of a mobile home and putting 2 brand-new homes, I would be very supportive of it.
thank you, Mr. Forte. Ms. Cobb?
I think the community think that he's putting trailers instead of homes. I think that's the understanding that they had.
That's the way it was read to us.
His
Yeah,
initial
that-
request was for a manufactured home, and he's
Okay,
now
so I
changed his
think
mind.
that's what the problem is. is that
Initially, it was, yes,
It
ma'am.
was initially stated mobile homes and not homes.
Initially,
So,
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And Mr. Martin, if you would did you meet with the people in the community and explain to them?
Well, I mean, I didn't want to create any friction because, you know, there's nothing like hearing it here and seeing it in writing. So that's why I bought the proposed blueprints. But at first I did want to put an additional mobile home. But then, you know, I thought about it and I said, that's really not fair to the other neighbors around there. So I scratched it, and like I said, I would like to propose to build 2 brand-new houses. I don't see how that hurts anybody.
Right?
I just, It really doesn't matter to us because the property is zoned R2, mixed residential. So you can have both manufactured home or you can have a stick-built home in this area. So that was really not an issue with us. We were really just looking at it in terms of the consistency of how large the lots are in that stretch.
Thank you, Mr. Cranston. Any other questions from the staff? Thank you, Mr. Martin. We have 7 blue cards of opposition. As recommended, we're going to allow 2 minutes per blue card. And I'd like to ask that no redundancy in regards to everyone saying the same thing more than once. If you do, we'll cut you down to, less than your 2-minute time frame. Please, sir. Our first blue card, Nathan Lewis. If you would, state your name and address, please, sir, for the records.
My name's Nathan Lewis. My address is 7622 Blanco Lane, which is close by. I guess after hearing the gentleman speak, my question is, at this point, if I'm understanding correctly, nobody in this room has any assurances that the houses are actually going to happen. It's strictly on paper right now. So I appreciate that idea. That's great, but it takes a lot of money to build 2 houses, and none of that is guaranteed to actually happen. Sounds very good to say in a meeting like this to try and get approval, but we don't actually know for sure. So I have to stand firm in my opposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Sir, could I answer that question? In a minute, I'm going to call you back up in a minute, Mr. Martin. Thank you. This was Walter Benoit.
My name's Walter Benoit, and I live on 1118 East Tank Farm Road. So I live next door to the property we're talking about right now, and I strongly oppose cutting the lot size. I don't know what lot sizes y'all are talking about that are comparable to what he's wanting to do. I don't know of any. We have 4 or 5 other homeowners here that have more than an acre that we could start dividing the lots up if we do this and make a bunch of mobile home parks if we wanted to. But again, Mr. Martin called me and told me basically that if he got voted down, he would do, number 1, use Section 8 housing next door, or number 2, move farm animals next to my house, cows, horses, and things like that. I told him, I didn't know if he was trying to threaten me or not. I didn't know why he would want to talk to me like that. But he said he was going to make his money back on his investment one way or the other. I said, well, that's an easy one. Why don't you just build a spec home there? Because if I could have bought the property, I would have built a spec home on the one corner property. It's a premium piece of real estate. It'd make a great spec home. He is insisting on 2, unless he puts it in contractual writing. I don't know where he's going to build next door to me. I've lived there for 37 years. When I moved there was no one there. The first owner moved the Tom Aber house. It's a 110-year-old house next door to me. That house burned down a few years ago. Had we known what the previous landowners were going to do with this mobile home, we'd have started the petition against the mobile homes 2 years ago. But I'm not here about the mobile home. They told me they were building a house, and they were, but they were building a house in Longville. Then instead of renting the property, they sold it to Mr. Martin, and that's what brings us all here tonight. So we're definitely opposed to cutting the lot size down.
Thank you, Mr. Benoit. Ron Bartek. Am I saying that right?
Ron Bartek. I live at 7601 Green Meadow. I just wanted to say that I kind of have opposed it from the beginning, from what was said was going to be done with the property, and didn't want to see it kind of chopped down into separate lots. And I think the neighborhood is pretty nice, and now we come here tonight and everything's changed. What has been said and comments have been made from the owner of the property. So at this point, like I said, it just kind of not for it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming out. Mary Putnam. Putnam.
I'm Mary Putnam, 7602 Hoban Lane. I didn't have anything to say until I heard what was said. The lots out there are not that small. There's one lot that's small. I have two lots, and they are both 200 square. The lot next to me is 200 square. Going next to me the other way is a rent house, and they're very nice people. I have a problem with renters. I don't have a problem with mobile homes. I would like to see that our neighborhood, those two little blocks, they're both dead end, keep the lot sizes so that we don't have all the traffic that's going to come if anybody starts dividing all the land up. And this is the third time that we've had to address this issue. That where are you going to put all these things if we start dividing up lots? Then you're going to have a lot of people living on dead-end roads. No problem with mobile homes, no problem with renters. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Putnam. Jane Mailer?
Hey, Malin, 7511 Green Meadow Road. My complaint is the same thing about them dividing the property. When they divide the property, they got one that's north of me, one that's directly to the east of me, there's one to the west of me. They're gonna do I know the man. He wants this to pass because he's gonna divide that property. And I'm gonna have 4 trailers just to the north of me. Not 1, not 2, but 4. I'm not opposed to mobile homes. I can see keeping the lots the same, maybe put 1 on there. But 4, nobody wants that. Y'all wouldn't want that. That's what my complaint is. Keep this neighborhood the same. It's a beautiful neighborhood. Come, visit it. You'll see. Don't change it. Let's keep it the same. It's single family. I think they only got 1 small lot. The rest of them are half acre or larger. And I own 1 of the acres. I'm not subdividing mine. I want to keep it the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malin. Penny Malin?
I'm Penny Malin, also at 7511 Green Meadow Road. A lot of what I had to say is redundant to what everyone else has said. I'm looking at your map right now that looks like there are smaller lots in the neighborhood, but I believe if you were to bring up the GIS map, most of us own multiple plots on that neighborhood. I currently own an acre, like my husband said, and like he said, next to us is an empty lot currently. Someone does own it. And we are fearful that when our other neighbor passes away that owns it, her son takes over it, what's to keep him from subdividing it as well. Our street only has 10 houses on it. It's a quiet street. It's a family-friendly street. My small children are on the street. There are lots of other small children on the street. It's going to increase traffic on the street. Right now, I can let my kids play in the road, and I'm not worried about cars and traffic and that sort of thing. We have a neighborhood street party. We're very family-oriented. It's a country street. Why would we divide it into tiny little neighborhood lots with houses on them? If you want a small lot, go into town and get your 1/4 acre and your 1/2 acre there. Where we live, it's an acre or more. Like I said, it's country living. And like I said, I'm just against dividing the lot. I'm not against trailers. I wouldn't love trailers next to me, of course. We've put money into our home, as everyone else has, to raise the value of our home. I don't love the idea of trailers, and as someone else mentioned, what's to keep him from putting another manufactured home there? Because he says so. He's told me, I stopped and greeted him one day. I thought he was our new neighbor, and he told me he had previously had another trailer on another street, and he put a porch around it. I assumed that's what we were doing on this lot. He never told me, by the way, I want to subdivide it and I want to add another trailer. I was under the assumption he was going to improve the lot, improve the trailer that was currently there. So I am against it. Like I said, I just don't want to subdivide the lot. More traffic, more houses. Our street's been the same for years. I've got in-laws that's been there for 20 plus years. Thank you.
very much, Ms. Malin. Mr. Jacob White.
I'm Jacob White. I live on 7602 Green Meadow Road. I'm here on the behalf of my father, Robert White. He has a pre-written letter. My family and I have lived on Green Meadow Road for the past 15 years. If you ever lived in a place where you consider it to be your home, then you would be opposed to someone disrupting your property and neighborhood. This is exactly how I feel, as do my fellow neighbors. I can appreciate that Mr. Martin is trying to make a profit on this piece of property, but at to what cost of the surrounding area? If he is allowed to divide this property, what effect do you think this will have? I would like for you to take a moment and consider if this was happening in your area. Would you vote for or against this division? I've taken time to consider what effects this would have and come to two different conclusions. The first being that Mr. Martin may bring value to our community. The second conclusion, that Mr. Martin is focused on making a profit and isn't aware to what happens to the surrounding area after he's made his money. Seeing how none of us have the ability to predict the future, I do not want to roll the dice. I care about this neighborhood and my family's future on Green Meadow Road. Please help me to protect my community along with my home. Thank you for your time, and may God lead you into your decision.
Thank you, Mr. White. Appreciate you. Mr. Martin, did you have any other comments? If you would, come up to the mic, please, sir. Please state your name and address again.
Joseph
please,
Wharton, 4033 Common Street. There's a couple of questions. I mean, I like to answer the questions that you guys have. The gentleman here has stated it takes a lot of money to build two houses. It does. To answer your question, I operate with $1 million of my own money.
Mr. Martin, if you would address the board.
I use $1 million of my own money when I buy these properties, and that could be verified. So whether or not if it's going to happen or not, it's going to happen very easily. On the other hand, like I said, I'm really against, if this doesn't pass, I'm really against from renting out the property, okay? But I will do it. But what a lot of these people do not realize is that it's zone agriculture. There could be farm animals on this property.
It's residential, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
R2.
it's not agriculture.
It's not agriculture.
So there's
No, I
no
mean-
farm animals that can go on that property.
Well, there's no prohibition against having animals on the property in the unincorporated area. There's no restriction against that.
And I just like that. I'm not going to have any animals, but whoever's rented out to, you know, they might have a horse or two. You know, I mean, I'm just, and don't get me wrong, it might not sound bad right now, I have no idea. But anyway, back to renting it out. You know, I don't know what type of renters are going to be there. I have no idea. And also, I still might get rid of the mobile home and build a duplex because it's zoned for a duplex. But I'd rather not.
Here tonight, Mr. Martin, we're here to, make a decision based on the land usage, not whether it's going to be a duplex or a mobile home or two homes. Once you get a decision made, then on your property, according to the ordinances of however it's zoned. So, I mean, we don't want to get into a contest of what you will do and what you won't do and what they think you will do or what they think you won't do. We just, appreciate your coming in with your applicant and voicing your opinion and telling us what you plan on doing with your property. Mr. Navarre?
Is there some way that we can specify if we pass that he has to he cannot put mobile homes on the property? Is there some way we can do that?
Well, you can. Right now, the conditions would be to adhere to the site plan. And the site plan right now, all it shows is a proposed dwelling. So you could defer it, give him time to come back with a more detailed description of what he might do.
Well, he's got blueprints in his hand.
Well,
But it's
right
not on
now,
the site plan.
right now it's on the site plan.
Jake has comments too.
So you're asking me if you can limit it? Sure, you can limit it, but it'd be, I'd almost rather it be as a condition that is the site plan redone, and that would require deferral.
I think he's asking for a variance, and he probably should have come in and asked to rezone for these properties, right? He's asking for a variance?
Yeah, he's asking for a variance on the lot size.
Right,
But the
he's-
property, keep in mind, the property is zoned R2 mixed residential.
Right.
So when that, and all of this property in this neighborhood is on that.
Right.
So
I
that
I
allows for
understand that.
manufactured homes,
I understand that.
stick-built homes, and it does allow for one duplex per lot.
Okay, but if he was sincere and wanting to build 2 homes there, he could come in and get it rezoned to where it would be R1, is it? That you have 1 home per lot, and it has to
well-
be not a mobile home?
Well, I mean, he could request to rezone the property to R1, but there's no R1 in this general area. I mean, so.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I would recommend that, but.
I'm not asking you to.
Yeah.
I'm asking him, if he was sincere about it, he would come with something that would have teeth in it, not what
Well-
he has right now. I firmly agree with the people that's come up. From my opinion, they bought in a neighborhood that their lot sizes were what they were. They expected their lot sizes to stay that way. They expected their neighborhood to be that way, for it not to be something that's going to change in time now because somebody comes in and wants to start making lot sizes smaller like are in other areas of the community. I think this community wants to stay the size that it is. They want to keep their neighborhood the same size. They voiced that strenuously. They're not against mobile homes. They're just wanting to keep the number of homes limited to what they are. And the way to do that is to keep their lot sizes the size that they are.
Right, and I understand that, but if
And-
you look at the plat, if you look at what's on the plat of this neighborhood,
Yeah.
there are about 4 or 5 lots that are similar to what he's requesting.
Right.
Look at this guy.
I'm just, if you look, if you look at the.
I've looked at it, and I've gotten the remarks from the people that they own these lots and they have their places on them. And if you look at it, they got houses that actually go between lot and lot. They cross the lot lines.
And before you get
So,
to.
I mean, that's just where I'm at with it. I think you're asking for the wrong thing. You're coming up saying, oh, I will do it, but you don't have any teeth except
No
for the fact
obligation.
that what you're saying you will.
Well, do you
And there's
need-
got to be a way to do
you
that.
I
need
disagree.
You need
I
something in
disagree.
writing, or?
I have to speak up. I disagree with that because looking at it, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna let Mr. Sam have the floor,
Okay.
then
Well,
we'll get back.
I was going to say, if we're finished with questions for
Yeah.
Mr. Martin, if
Yeah.
Mr. Martin can be seated.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Jake,
Martin,
did you
yes,
need
thank you.
anything?
Yeah, I've had my hand up for a
Jake's been
long
there.
time. I think Mr. Peripheral's out. I'm just trying to establish, I think we need, as a collective body here, to establish these lot sizes from what I'm seeing here and on the GIS map. It appears to me, and I could be looking at this totally wrong, the first 4 structures here on the west side of the road are all about the same size as what this applicant is requesting. And the house adjacent, straight to the north, the next 2 structures, that's 2 separate homes that are, it look to me, one is considerably smaller than half that he's asking, and the next is about the same size. So I'm just trying to establish, he's not asking for something that's unreasonable or out of like kind to what's on the first 25% of this street. And that's really where I think we need to focus is this lot size making this an irregular lot on this street? And from what I can see, and I'm asking for the staff's help, I don't think it is irregular. It seems pretty typical from what I see on the plat and on the GIS map.
That's how we saw it, Mr. Porsche, is based on what we have in our record. There's several that are in similar size to what he's
That's
requesting.
what I'm seeing here. I mean, again, I didn't drive down the street, but I'm looking here. I mean, it's only to where you get towards the back side here where it seems like, and there's another here that appears to be, so I mean, again, keeping the discussion just to lot sizes of what is of like kind, it appears it's a reasonable request, and that's my only comments.
If you can let the board members talk, I just want to say something after they speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think I'm coming from the same thing, looking at this that Jake just spoke about. And so when I said I disagree, I mean, the gentleman is coming forth, and this is what he's chose to do with his property for a variance. And so if that's what he's chose to do, or if he would have rather rezoned, he would have done that. But he's choosing to for the variance. So that's what I guess in my mind I'm disagreeing with. But I am seeing exactly what you're seeing, and that's what I'm confused about. Because when you blow that map up and what we're looking at on our computer, that yellow block right there has two homes adjacent, exactly what we're seeing right there. So it's what he's trying to do is no different what's already been done, is what I'm seeing. So.
I agree.
Alicia.
I did drive by there. My dad lives on Bolt Lane, which is 2 streets over. Everyone there has an acre, period. And I see that it's divided up, but I think a lot of people in this neighborhood have more than one lot, so they've got an acre. And it feels like to me they're trying to be bullied into this. If we don't pass it, then there's going to be horses and cows. And I know we're just land use, and yes, the land use says mixed residential, but it feels like it's a bullying tactic of, if you don't pass this, then I'm going to do this. And as a neighborhood, if I was a homeowner, I'd be very disturbed by feeling threatened by that. And that bothers me probably more than having 2 homes there. It's the approach for me. Now, I mean, I understand land use mixed, you can put 2 trailers, or a duplex, but it is single family. And I know these lots look small, but I've driven out there.
Thank you, Mr.
Sorry,
Alicia.
that's it. It just,
I will agree with you with the approach.
yeah, it's just
I always tell my kids it's not what you say, it's how you say it. But I will say this, and according to my knowledge, he hasn't said anything that's not factual. You know, so it's.
He could do it.
He could. I understand.
He could do it, and it goes back to that. Be careful what you.
If they're going to contest it.
Be careful what you ask for, because you might get it.
Yeah.
That's it.
But what my point is that it doesn't matter what he says. We're voting on the lot size.
Agreed.
And that's what we need to keep our concentration on.
I agree.
I think the main thing is that they're worrying about if he's really going to build homes or put trailers.
I want to go
I
with
think that's the main thing in the community.
talk about Randy's solution, maybe deferring until he actually commits to homes.
I was just going to say, I think Mr. Gabb had a pretty good suggestion about, deferring to seeing if he would revise his site plan to show that. And, it would also give us, if y'all would like more information on the lot sizes along that street, we'll be glad to do some investigation into the court records to find out exactly what size lots those properties are out there, so you have that information in order to make that decision.
I'd like to present a motion to defer.
I have a motion by
second.
Mr. Porsche to defer, seconded by Mr. Galicia. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. This application number 7 has been deferred.
The next meeting.
Till next meeting.
till the next meeting.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Agenda item number 8. We'll wait just a second for the crowd to dispense.
Oh, yeah. He shot himself in the foot.
I get it. And you're right. Sorry.
Yeah. He would have been best off if he had an attorney saying, look.
Yeah, Tom Gale would have done it, it would have flown through.
I said, everything he was saying is.
Next item on our agenda, number 8. Take appropriate action on EX 06190056. Request by Commercial Properties Interest LLC for an exception to allow residential development homeless shelter at 5615 Highway 90 East in Ward 3. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions. I have a motion by Ms. Cobb, seconded by Mr. Navarre. Ms. Tammy?
This property is located in the Clo area and encompasses 1 acre of land. The applicant would like to develop a homeless shelter at this location. Currently on the property, there are 2 light industrial buildings. If approved, the applicant plans to convert the existing buildings to accommodate approximately 8 beds of shelter. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the condition that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development.
Thank you, Ms. Tammy. Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's recommendations? And we do have 1 blue card in against this that we'll call on in a minute. State your name and address for the records, please, sir.
My name's Mark Pellerin. My address is 1201 Parish Road, Vinton, Louisiana. I'm the president of the board of directors for Solutions Homeless Shelter. We located this piece of property because, for multiple reasons. One, it's not in any residential subdivision. Of course, price is always an issue when you're renting a property, but also its proximity to Sewella Tech, the plumbers and electricians local for trade industries, for training. It's going to be, falls more along the lines of a transition facility than a homeless shelter, but we had to name it something. So that's the name. When we actually started this aspect of the planning and zoning, I know they went through multiple hours and I had to write them a letter. I think it took them a few days worth of half of their staff probably working on this to come back and said, there's nothing like what we're going to be doing in Southwest Louisiana. So that's how we ended up going for an exception. We're going to be implementing a lot of new and innovative things that are not done anywhere else, and we will end up being the blueprint for the rest of the country on how to solve the problem for homeless veterans and homeless in general. There's some things that different friends of mine within the Ranger community are doing around the country on small scales that we're going to incorporate as well. And basically bringing everything into one location where we can expedite the process. You know, there's a lot of organizations doing a lot of little things, but the current process where the homeless people have to go from one place to the next, it can take a couple of years for them to get the things they need to be able to get themselves out. Some of the things, like what we're going to do as far as people coming in, no child molesters, no violent criminals. The police department will be calling us, so the homeless person's going to, I've been told the cops know where all the homeless people are, who the homeless veterans are. So when they call us, you know, they can approach somebody and say, hey, you know, if you would like to, we can get you in this transition facility. They call, we'll go get them. They're going to have an initial assessment interview to find out what their needs are, you know, what they're lacking as far as, it may be they never graduated high school or got a GED. We're going to have some computers there where they're going to have, they will be getting their GED if that's what they need. Once they have an address, then you can expedite the process to getting driver's license, social security card. You can't put them to work unless you have 2 forms of ID. Bless you. You have to have a social security card, passport, or driver's license. 2 out of those 3. You're not going to get a driver's license or a passport if you don't have an address. This way we can expedite that process. A lot of the things, they're going to have to be relearning their life skills. With a company van, they're going to be encouraged to do things like go to downtown at sundown, movie under the stars, Contraband Days Parade, Mardi Gras Parade. So they're going to start feeling like they're wanted and being a member of society. Part of relearning their life skills, as well as the job placement to, eventually getting work and getting out on their own, but they need to be a productive member of society. One of the things that we're going to implement, a friend of mine, Carl Munger with the Gallant Few, they have a program where when someone's coming in off of active duty back into civilian, as far as helping them process back into the civilian life, it's kind of like a mentorship. They'll pair a veteran up with a veteran coming off of active duty. So the issues that they have to deal with, in relation to reintegrating into society, they have someone to communicate with. Helps on suicide and many other aspects. And that's originally how they started it, was on the suicide. But what we're going to do is take that a step further. For every veteran that's homeless, a local veteran basically is a sponsor for them. Civilians for civilians. We'll try and match up Army with Army, Navy, whatever, on that aspect, all the branches. Okay, I'm getting short on time here, but, taking them to, invite them to church, crawfish boil, whatever, so on their downtime, they're not sitting there and getting in the slump of going right back into that. I've got about 20 seconds, so if anybody has a quick question, or I'll be glad to answer any questions from anyone.
Have any questions or comments? Mr. Kellerin?
They'll need it.
Jake?
This is going to be way off left field, but I'll make it quick. Are you on Twitter?
No.
Do y'all have? Okay. There's a Twitter account run by a very fine lady called Code of Vets, and I just think that would be a great resource for you to connect with. She helps out veterans. I mean, it's people all over it's a huge network. They'll hear of a veteran in need, and then they can assist and help. And so I think that would be a great thing for you guys to get channeled in with that. I think it's a great idea. I think it's awesome.
There's a lot of things out there on veterans programs and stuff. There's so many that no one knows. I mean, I've got a friend of mine I served with in 3rd Ranger Battalion.
Yeah.
He actually made a whiskey company called 3 Rangers Whiskey, which I'd love to get down here.
Yeah.
It's great whiskey. It's hard for me to get hold of. But the proceeds of that, they founded a thing called 3 Rangers Foundation.
Yeah.
And another Ranger buddy is heading that. And people like disabled and stuff, they've got IED in Iraq or something, and you come back missing both legs. When you integrate back into, after all the rehab, they will go and furnish the house for them.
Right.
All their furniture, food and everything and bills paid for a couple of months to let them get acclimated back into society.
Awesome.
Of course, I'm going to hit them up to come down here when first couple of veterans get into housing. I'll try and.
Any other questions?
I'm sure you've heard of City of Refuge in Vinton.
Yes, sir. There's, I think, 6, last time I went over there, log cabin houses, single dwelling houses. They can help 6 veterans at a time. They recently cleared out some of their storage as far as overflow for like freezing and stuff. I think they'll be able to take in like about 20 or something that get flooded out or frozen or whatever for temporary. But it's still not solving the problems.
Right. No, I think it's a wonderful deal.
Thank you, Mr. Pellerin.
Yes, sir.
We have one blue card against Shane Maureen.
I'm Shane Moran, I represent the business next door to this at 5619 Highway 90 East. And I guess I'm a lot more clear on what's going to be there now. The sign said homeless shelter, and my concern was for the safety of our employees. Sometimes we have an open door policy. We only have one administrative assistant there, thinking of a homeless shelter, and, maybe it's closed or they're not taking any more people in, so where are they going to go next? Sometimes people walk into our office and sometimes we lock the door, but, I was concerned of that, but Mark did an excellent job explaining what it's actually, intended for with the veterans, and so just, I'll let you know what I was hearing. I should have researched it a little more, but I understand now, so.
Thank you for coming.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Mr. Pellerin?
Yes, I'll go ahead and a little more to make him feel a little better, reiterate. I was on my time limit earlier. Had somebody flashing the watch at me. Also, one of the things that we're doing is with the cops calling for the individuals, which they can't bring the person, they can't transport, so we'll have to go get them. But they're also, I've got a stepbrother who used to be a detective, just went back on patrol, sergeant, but they're going to be asked, okay, now you say protect and serve. Part of that serve part is you come and still meet with them, check up on your person, as well as having your sponsorship. Also, I'm going to petition the city police and sheriff's department to non-announced, you come run your drug dogs whenever you feel like it, as often as you can, but also offering that to them as a training facility. Hey, you got a great place. House, I think the actual figure was 70 beds, I believe was my calculation after I recounted. But come run your drug dogs through. Use it as a training facility, as well as on your spare time. If you called me about this particular person, when you get off duty, stop by and visit with them. That's part of them reintegrating back into society and feeling that they have a self-worth and value. So, yeah, they're going to be policing it, and they're going to enter into a contract basically when they come in. So, did I run out of time again? Are you? And they'll be evaluated every 6 months by the board members, by the board of directors. If they're not processing in time, they're not doing what they're told, then they're out.
Thank you, Mr. Pellerin.
Sir.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for your time.
Yes, sir. Any other questions or comments by the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 9. I'd like to announce that RZ 07190139, a request by Billy J. Rutherford for to rezone from single-family residential R1 to manufactured home park RMHP to allow manufactured home park 80 spaces at 5905 Carbide Drive in Ward 3 has been withdrawn.
Oh, okay.
Agenda item number 10. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was thinking, I'm not putting 80 mobile homes on anything, but, sorry, I was confused.
Take appropriate action on RZ 07190145, a request by Stephanie Smith to rezone from mixed residential R2 to multifamily residential RM to allow residential development duplexes on the 300 block of Olmsted Lane in Ward 1. I'll entertain a motion for approval with conditions.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Navarre, seconded by Ms. Cobb. Ms. Tammy?
This property is located in Moss Bluff area and encompasses 1 acre of land. If approved, the applicant plans to construct duplexes. The duplexes will be 1 story, with each unit being 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, and approximately 1,100 square feet living. The parking and drives will be concrete. The entire development will be screened with a privacy fence. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the following conditions: that the development adhere to site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development. that all exterior lighting must be oriented inward toward the development or structures to minimize intrusion onto surrounding properties, that the development adhere to stormwater best management practices, and that a runoff management plan will be required unless appropriate waiver is granted by the Division of Engineering.
Thank you, Ms. Tammy. Yes, ma'am, please state your name and address for the record.
Stephanie Smith, and my address is 385 Armstead. I do own the land also, which is on the same road. So I am the owner of the land. I am selling the land, and that is the person that's going to do the developing of it.
Very much. And we do have one blue card speaking for the applicant, Mr. Tom Gale. Another routine.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Is,
sir.
is there any opposition? Any blue cards in opposition?
Pardon?
Any blue cards in opposition?
None.
Okay, thank you.
Members of the commission, my name is Tom Gale, 713 Kirby Street, Lake Charles. I'm here on behalf of the developer if anybody has any questions. Thank you very much.
Board members have any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Ms. Smith.
Too easy, Tom. You can't. And I'm just looking at the
Make him
map.
earn his
and
money.
I saw the drawing, but there is an easement, if I'm looking at it correctly, that would join on the northeast corner of this property to the road?
There is a residence that is has the actual road frontage, and there's a mobile home that's currently situated there, and this property would be directly to the west. And so
Does it
the access to the public road is via private drive, an easement which is on the north side of that particular parcel.
Just looking at the lines on that particular map when I zoom in, and it doesn't look like there's enough room between that existing residence to
We have room to
have-
spare.
That's my whisker.
And actually, we are in discussion with the property owner right now to try to widen it even further. Right now, the legal right is 15 feet, and we're trying to secure another 5 feet, because we know the emergency vehicles, fire trucks, et cetera, like a wider lane to be able to get through. So that's one of the things we are working on, and hope to modify that by the time we get into engineering.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda item number 11, is to advise that the police jury took the following action on July 18th, 2019, with reference to the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board from the July 16th, 2019 meeting. ECO Enterprises, North Perkins Ferry Road, Planning and Zoning approved, police jury upheld. Abraham 5, Highway 27 South, Planning and Zoning approved, police jury deferred for 30 days. Jason Sapoff, Opelousas Street, Planning and Zoning approved, police jury upheld. Before we go into the other agenda items, I'd like to turn the floor over to Mr. Armstead. Armentar. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I got you written down right there.
As all of y'all know, or most of y'all know, that I have qualified to run for police jury. And so at this time, I would like to go ahead and resign from the Planning and Zoning Board so I can devote my full attention to running for the office of police jury. I appreciate everything that I've learned from every one of y'all. It's been a great experience for the last 3.5 years or so. And I will carry that on with me. What I've done here, I think, is gonna help me come January to be a better police jury. I mean, understanding people's problems and what people face. This is a big part of what goes on. So I'm just real grateful and thankful to all of y'all, and hope to see y'all January 16th, just in a different capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I made a statement earlier, and some people hadn't heard. I'm sure Miss Hyatt remember, but Miss Betty Brown passed away a few weeks ago. I know a lot of people didn't know that, but I happened to read it when I was on my trip. So I just thought I would.
Bess and I went to the funeral.
Yeah.
I knew, because my two ladies here, neither one of them knew it.
I had
said
no
something
idea.
about it.
And I appreciate that so much, and I appreciate Wes and Tricia coming. I really do. My
Very sweet
son
lady.
said he wished he could have met you. He just, everything just happened so quick.
I know.
Wes, you had something?
I was just going to thank Mr. Armitage for serving on this board for the terms that he has served, and appreciate your service to this board and to this community. This is an important board, and y'all make some tough decisions on that affects people's lives every day. And so we appreciate your service, and good luck with it.
Yes, Randy, you mentioned that you learned a lot from us, but I learned a lot from you also, listening to your views on how this land management board works, and thank you very much for serving. Next item on the agenda is to advise that the next regularly scheduled planning and zoning meeting will be held on Tuesday, September the 17th, 2019, in the police jury meeting room. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. I have a motion and a second.
Nay.
For adjournment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion carries.